أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. نعم المولى ونعم النصير. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه ونور عرشه صاحب طه وياسين أحمد مجتبى أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله. صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله. روحي وجسمي وأرواح العالمين لك الفداء. يا غريب يا مظلوم يا شهيد بأرض كربلاء. ثم السلام عليكم يا أهل الأضاء الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. قال الله تعالى في القرآن الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وقل جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن باطل كان زهوقا. The truth has come and falsehood has vanished and vanquished. Verily, the falsehood is ever bound to vanish. I start in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First of all, thanking Allah and giving my aqeedah to our Bibi Fatimatul Zahra, that this honor and privilege of doing zikr Aba Abdullah has been granted this year for me to be with you in Oxford Mu'mineen. In the last 15 years, this is my third Majalis series of Muharram with you. And first of all, I must give my sincere thanks to your great alim, Sayyid Hassani, how he gracefully allowed me to sit on this mimbar for Oxford, and seeking his permission, I have recited these majalises in this Muharram. A great alim who is alim ba'amal and from whom we all can learn so much. I have so much to learn, and I wish I had the pleasure of his company so that I could acquire few drops from the knowledge that he has. Secondly, I wish to thank the Mu'mineen of Oxford, and particularly Raja Sahib, Muhammad Dil Bazir brother, who invited me on behalf of the committee and who has always been a good friend and a brother to me. I also have a duty of Biradar Maqbool, who has asked me, who came to you last Muharram, to convey his salams to you. And finally, I have to thank my brother Asif, my younger brother Asif Ali, who has been in close contact and has been guiding me as we have been preparing this majlises. I called him a friend. I don't know whether I can, because he's a Liverpool supporter and I'm Mancunian. I'm Manchester United supporter. But I think in the love of Ahlul Bayt, we are all combined together. So yes, my salutations to him for the hard work that he does to ensure that these majalises are transmitted every night in due time. The ayah that we have been following, Haqq, how we can connect with Haqq. And we discuss Bari'atu ilallah from Ziyarat Ashura. Leave everything behind and connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the day of Ashura that is going to be coming up tomorrow is a day of huzn. And this is my last majlis with wise, inshallah, 2 majlises, short ones of Masaib in English for Ashur and Shami Ghariba will be recited. But it is important to understand the significance of Ashur, how we should greet each other. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمسابين بالحسين عليه السلام. How this is the great day of sadness, and how we should assemble under the flag of Abul Fazl al-Abbas and Imam Hussein to mourn and give our condolences to Fatimatu Zahra salamullahi alayha. Imam Rida salawatullahi alayhi in Wasail al-Shia says, one who refrains from seeking his worldly desires on the day of Ashura, Allah shall grant him desires of this world and the hereafter. It's very important to realize these are the words of Imam. Keep away from seeking livelihood or any other worldly affair on the day of Ashura. Come together and do Amal Ashura and see how your wishes are granted. How important this day of Ashura is for us, Shiayan Ali, and those who are seekers of truth, Haqq. This love is so great, it cures so many diseases. It cures the disease of the heart and disease of the mind and disease of the body. If only we are connected with this love. Ayatollah Hussein Muzahiri, a marja of his time, found that at a early age of around 50, 55, he was losing his sight, and eventually he nearly lost all his sight from an illness of the eyes. And it was the day before Ashura. He called his servant, tomorrow on the day of Ashura, people will be passing on the streets doing Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. They will be doing the julus of Hussein. They'll be crying for Hussein. When they do that, come and get me immediately and take me behind the julus. And Ayatollah Hussein Muzahiri was taken as these people saying, Ya Hussein, Ya Abu Abdullah, Ya Abbas, crying, doing sinazani matam, were passing through that street. Ayatollah Hussein Muzahiri goes with them, does sinazani, and then picks up the dust behind those people who had walked saying Hussein, Hussein. The result, he took that dust and put it on his eyes. And after that time, for many years, 20, 30 years, this great marja did not even need specs to see. His eyesight was restored. His love of Hussein brought his eyesight back. Is it surprising? Haven't we seen how Yaqub got his eyesight back when he just had the shirt of Yusuf put on his eyes? This is the love that we need to have in our heart. This is why the poet beautifully says, Daage matam jo seene pe saja rakha hai, dil ko maula ka aza khana bana rakha hai, मुश्किलों सोच के आना मेरे घर के जानिब, मैंने गाजी का अलम घर पे लगा रखा है। लोग लिखते रहे दीवारों पे काफिर हमको, हमने इस कुफ्र पे ईमान बना रखा है। दोस्तों की जरा पहचान हमें भी हो जाए, मिसले शब्बीर चिरागों को बुझा रखा है। This signs of matam on our chest. These are the azakhana, these are the places of gathering for Hussein. And oh difficulty, think carefully before coming towards me. I have Abul Fazl Abbas's alam in my home. And beautiful words that we just said. The ayah that we have been reciting about haq is beautifully demonstrated in number of ayahs of Quran. And I want to move forward with that topic today. When we look at surah number 98, wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. By the time, the most precious commodity that mankind has, Allah swears by that time. He says, wal asr innal insan, mankind is at loss. We are all at loss. Anybody who does any business, anything we do want to buy, we don't want to be at loss. But Allah says we are all at loss. Illa allazina amanu, except those who believe in Allah, believe in Quran, believe in Ahlul Bayt, believe in the love of Ahlul Bayt and connecting with the message of Ahlul Bayt. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, they carry out good actions, actions that please their Lord, action that please their Imam, action that please their Prophet. وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. That's the ayah that I really wanted to say. One of the condition of the people who will be successful, who will not be in loss, is those who propagate, support haqq, the truth. Those who are attached to haqq. And those who are وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. So important to understand. That is why the hadith that Ali is haqq, that I have recited 2 or 3 times during these 10 days. I have reminded how Ali is haqq, how Ahlul Bayt is haqq, and our 6th Imam, Imam Jafar Sadiq Salawatullahi alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. He says, if the prayers and ibadah at the size of Mount of Uhud are recited whole life, but none of them will be accepted without our wilayah. That true meaning of salah that Hussein saved is to connect with the person who saved salah and who did practical demonstration of what is Quran and what is the walking and talking Quran. We find that if you look at the life of our Imams, is full of examples. In this contemporary life, we say, oh, we are in UK. Look at the country like UK, like Canada, how there is a system to look after the elderly and to look after those who have worked hard by giving them state pension, how they are provided for. But you only have to go where it started from. Nearly 1400 years ago, Mawlai Muttaqiyan, Asadullah al-Ghalib, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Salawatullahi alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, was in Kufa. He was now in Zahir Khilafat. The Khilafah, the whole rule of the Islamic world was under him. And look how he established. When people saw an old Christian man begging on the street and Imam Ali saw him, he says, "Who is this old man who is begging on the street?" And the people say to Ali, "Ya Ali, this is a Christian who has lived amongst us, but now he doesn't have earning, he's become old and he needs to beg to live." Imam Ali got angry. The face of Rahmah became angry and said, "How dare we live in an Islamic society, and then a person who has served the society, who's worked within the society, is starving and begging for food." He immediately ordered all such persons who are in need should be given pension from Baytul Mal. Mawla is establishing the system of pension. We have to understand who our Mawla is. That he was connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why he said, "Ilahi kafa bi izza an akuna laka abda wa kafa bi faqran an takuna li rabba. Anta kama uhibbu faj'alni kama tuhibbu." Oh Allah, the honor of being your servant is enough for me. How humble our Mawla is. Who is the door of knowledge? Prophet says, "Ana madinatul ilm wa aliyun babuha." Who is the greatest being after the Holy Prophet in this world? He says, "The honor of being your servant is enough for me. Enough is for pride that you are my Lord. I'm so proud that you are my Lord." The being like yourself, the greatest creator, the only creator of mine is my Lord. And then he says, "Oh my Lord, you are just as I want you to be. You are just as I want you to be. Merciful, compassionate." We have seen so many hadiths during these 10 nights. How Allah is compassionate. You're just like as I want you to be. And then he says, "Oh Allah, make me just as you would like me to be. Make me like what you wish I should become. I should become that ashraful makhluqat. I should become that highest form of creation in the system of this world. Well above animal kingdom, well above people who have no knowledge of their way of life and their purpose of life, and become one that reaches the maximum potential with growth within." And this is what the Mawla is trying to tell us. How many of those khutabat of Mawla Ali have I recited during these 10 days? Each khutbah a pearl from the deep sea right in front of us in our hand. But we ignore it. We do not even look at it. We are ready to listen to every other role models in this world, but we do not want to hear or even ponder. As the hadith says, "Al-fikratu sa," that moment's pondering is the greatest of ibadah. We don't want to ponder, in the words of our Mawla. Indeed, when we see khutbah number 50, Imam Ali says, "No one will enter paradise except he who knows Allah and he who knows his chosen ones, the Ahlul Bayt." And then in Sermon 154 he says, "O Ali," Imam Ali says, "if you follow me, inshallah I will certainly take you to the path of paradise." In Sermon 2, Ahlul Bayt are the trustees of Allah. Khutbah number 2. They are the trustees of Allah's secret, shelters for His affairs. How come we are so lost? We have personal difficulties, mental difficulties, we have mental challenges, we are stressed, we have depression. But Ali says, they are the shelter of His affairs. Come to Ahlul Bayt. Source of knowledge about Him, center of his wisdom, valleys for his book, mountains of his religion. With them Allah strengthened the band of religion back and removed the trembling of its limb. The back of religion was strengthened by Ahlul Bayt, and the trembling of the limbs of religion was removed by Allah through Ahlul Bayt. No person in the world can be brought at par with them. They are the cornerstone and foundation of religion. Umududdin, they are the foundation of religion and sustainers for its life. They are the strong pillars of knowledge and belief. They turn away the stormy flow of doubt and suspicion. How often we are covered by doubts and suspicion. Connect with Ahlul Bayt. You'll see how they turn away. They are the middle course among the excesses and backwardness. Very important sentence. People exceed in everything they do above what the Aimma tell us. And those who stay back, Ahlul Bayt are the middle course. Stay with Ahlul Bayt. They possess all the characteristics that give them superiority in the right of wilayah and leadership. Quran says again and again, and we have covered many ayahs, Surah Ma'idah, how Ghadir came and the Prophet was said, convey. And if you did not convey this message, you have not conveyed the words and the religion of Allah. How important this message of wilayah is for us. And the wilayah that should connect with the wilayah of today. But when you look at the Quran, Surah Ma'idah, ayah number 55, Allah says, your wali is your guardian. Your guardian is only Allah and His Rasul, and those who believe and keep up prayers and pay poor rate while they are in ruku. Ali, this ayah was revealed when Ali ibn Abi Talib was in ruku, giving away his ring to that beggar who was crying out in Masjid al-Nabawi. How Allah is sending us towards the signpost of Haqq. Where is Haqq? When we look at Dua Nudba, a beautiful dua, we find that it tells us that Ahlul Bayt are the path of guidance. Then it says many beautiful words. It says, Aina Kamaril Munira. Where are you, that shining moon? And where are you, that shining sun? Aina Alamuddin wa Qawaid al-Ilm. Where are you, the center of knowledge and that fountain of knowledge and that strong foundation of religion? We cry out saying, where are you, O Imam? And then Surah Dua Nudba goes further. Where are you? Aina ya alimul kamil. That complete knowledge. Aina siratul mustaqim. Where are you? That true path. That path of salvation. In these days, we have been saying ayahs or the words from Dua Nudba. It's something that we should be connecting daily because it connects us with Waliul Asr, Hujjat ibn al-Hasan, Salawatullahi alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Another dua which is very recommended that we do every day in the morning. And there is a hadith for our Aimma from Imam that those who recite this dua for 40 days with understanding, they will definitely see the face of their living Imam. Whether at the time of death or not only that, the hadith goes that when the Imam comes, they will be risen up from the qabr and they will join Imam in establishing Haqq, our topic Haqq, the truth. How this beautiful dua, short dua, 7-8 minutes, you can listen to it on YouTube with meaning. How it says beautifully, Allahumma ujaddidu laha fi sabihati yawmi ahdan wa aqdan wa bay'atan. This morning I'm renewing my oath. I'm renewing that very, very oath of mine with you, Ya Imam, that I am your follower and I believe you to be the one chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So important to understand this concept. However, when we do not really know who our Imam is, how can we connect? We need to understand. Urdu poet beautifully says, Nabi ka husn Ali ka jalal kayam hai. Nabi ka husn Ali ka jalal kayam hai. Jahan mein surah Kauthar ki aal kayam hai. न हो इमाम तो फिर वारिसे किताब है कौन? जवाब लाओ हमारा सवाल कायम है. If there is no Imam, who is the waris? Who is the inheritor of the book? This is the Surah Kausar's real meaning. He is still there. Importance of knowing our Imam. I have had to cut down a lot to condense it, everything into this 10th majlis. But inshallah, Allah accepts, and I hope I haven't done injustice to the topic. When we see the hadith, Man mata walam ya'rif imam zamani mata mitata jahiliya. The hadith of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. One who dies and he does not have marifah, knowledge of the Imam of the time, dies the death of Jahiliyyah, ignorance. Unquestionably, the earth can never be devoid of the Hujjah of Allah. And we have to have that marifah. We have to have the understanding who this Hujjah is. Where is he? How can we connect with him? How we can be with him? And how we can make sure we are risen with him from our graves to join him if you are not alive at that time. We need to connect with our Imam. Haqq is with Imam, Haqq is with Ali, and Haqq is with Mahdi. If we cannot connect with that Haqq, that truth, we will then wander away in the wilderness. We'll be groping in darkness like Mawla Ali said in his khutbah. And we will be away from Misbahul Huda, the lantern of Haqq, wa Safinatun Najah. We will be drowning in the sea while the ark of salvation will pass away from us. We need to connect. He is indeed the light in all affairs. Knowing our Imam. Imam is the Sirat al-Mustaqim, the path of Allah. And by following him, we can understand and recognize who he is and get to the right path. Even during the period of Ghaibah, people say how Imam benefit, and I gave you some theological answers of how the sun and the cloud yesterday. But today I'm going to give you some practical examples of how in Ghaibah Imam is there and is example for all affairs. He's aware of all affairs. We know that in Surah Al-Asr we have an ayah in Quran. تَنَزَّلُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَالرُّوحُ فِيهَا بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهِمْ مِنْ كُلِّ أَمْرٍ. On the night of Qadr, the Malaika descend with the whole affairs. On whom? Ulil Amr. They come to this Imam and is given the whole affairs of mankind. Imam is aware of the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have to understand very, very clearly that Imam is there and intercedes for us. He prays for us. When we do a good action, he is happy with us and he prays for us for tawfiq. And when we do an action that displeases him, وَلَا تَكُونُوا لَنَا شَيْنَا. Kunu, Imam Jafar Sadiq hadith, do things that are something we can be proud of, not the one that will make us ashamed of you. And our Imam is ashamed when he sees actions from us. But our Imam intercedes. He comes to our help. And Imam is known to meet a believer. Every believer of Mahdi, every lover of Mahdi will see Imams in 3 occasions. At the time of trouble, when you have trouble, go out and say, Ya Sahib al-Zaman adrikni. You don't know how miraculously your Imam comes to your help. How he intercedes. And then he's present at every Hajj. And ahadith say every Thursday in Karbala. He's there with us as we say, Labbaik. Labbaik ya Allah. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. And he is also there when we say, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdillah. He cries tears of blood when he says, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdillah. If we only realize that he's there with us. And then he attends the funeral of every believer who has no religious obligation pending on him, whether it's khums or whether salah or fasting. We should make sure we observe. Then Imam will be there at our funeral. We have seen many hadiths. I had 5, 7 actual occasions. But there is one hadith from our 8th Imam, Imam Ali Radha Salawatullahi alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. He was walking along with his one follower, one ashab. And this ashab narrates that we came in the wilderness and he was walking towards that wilderness. Suddenly we heard the voice of crying and the voice of people doing funeral. And he goes there and he says, allow me to lead these prayers. And then he takes that body and takes it down to the grave and he prays for that person. And he puts his hand and says, Ya Allah, send mercy on him and forgive all his sins. And then as he came out, he started talking about this man as if he knew him. When he came out, the ashab says, Ya Imam, how did you meet this man from the wilderness? Do you know him? Imam says, we know every Shia in the world, wherever they are, and we are there for their funeral. We are there to pray for them. Only if we understand. And our Imam are there to guide us. Our Imam are there to help us. Even great ulamas like Allama Hilli. How? I cannot go. I think many years ago I gave you the story in detail. But just some ishara, some pointers. How Allama Hilli was questioning so many sawabs for this crying for Hussein. These tears that we make for Hussein. It can forgive you. It can give you Jannah. It can become a firewall. So many hadiths I recited. So he was thinking. As he was thinking, he said, let me go and see my Imam. It was known at that time that for 40 days, if you go and do ziyarah of Imam Hussein with the niyyah to try and see our 40 Thursdays, to see our living Imam, you will see him. So he was doing this for 39 days. 39 Thursdays he went to Karbala from Najaf, walking to Karbala. And then on the 40th day, he still hasn't seen his Imam. And he is worried and walking, and suddenly somebody joins him and tells him the story of that king that was lost in the jungle And there was an old lady who had nothing but just one lamb, nothing else in her whole hut and all around her. But she gave, because she found that the king was hungry and need of food, she slaughtered the lamb and gave it away. And then that king says, what is the reward of this lady? Afterwards, when he gets back to the palace, what should be given to the lady? And everybody said, oh, you should give him this and that many sheep and that much lamb. But then the king turns and says, she saved my life. She gave everything she had for me. My only proper way of rewarding her would be to give her my whole kingdom. And this is why then Allama Hili, it struck him. Hussein gave everything for Allah. How can Allah not give so much reward for Hussein's crying and for Hussein's azadar? How can we connect with Imam? As I said, Kunu lana zaynan wala takunu ala shaynan. The hadith of the sixth Imam. Be the source of beauty for us and not source of embarrassment. Connecting involves placing the wish and the desire of Imam with our wish. Rizallahi, Rizana Ahlul Bayt. Abu Abdullah says, our pleasure is the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Connect with the pleasure of Allah. And it is that connection means constant conversation with Imam. Imam is here. He is alive. He hears every word you say and he knows every thought you have. Do we connect? Do we talk to Imam? When we see the station in the status in Yemen and issues like that, do we think, Ya Imam, how much is it affecting you that Muslims and people are suffering? Do we think about him being alone, crying for Hussein, Hussein? And here we are gathered all over the world together to do Hussein. How much is he feeling for Sayyida Fatima and her sacrifices, and Sayyida Zainab and her sacrifice? Indeed, when we read this particular concept, and this is why I mentioned earlier on Dua Ahad, beautiful dua, must be recited. Imam says for 40 days, our sixth Imam says, if one recites, you will be guaranteed to stand up and join from your qabr. And in one ayah of that particular dua, we says, Ya Allah, if death comes to us earlier, before our Imam is risen to establish Haqq, make us stand up from our graves in our kafan with sword in our hands so that we join with our Imam to establish Haqq. We need to understand. We have to say, and in that dua, there is a beautiful concept. Wilaya, which is not individual. Wilaya that is collective. When we do salams to the Imam, we say, Allah send the blessings on the Imam on behalf of all the mu'mineen all over the world. Those who are in the desert, those who are in the water, those who are in the mountains, those who are in the cities. On behalf of all, I am reciting this dua for the blessings to be sent to the Imam. How we connect. The dua is talking about connecting and clinging together. And every morning we incline towards our Imam. Beautiful. And at the end we say Al-Ajjal. We take our hands and we, as if we are doing matam, we say Al-Ajjal on our laps. It's recommended. We say Al-Ajjal, Al-Ajjal. Ya Mawla, Ya Sahib al-Zaman. O Allah, hasten the reappearance of Waliul Asr. This sort of acts connect. We should give sadaqah. How many of you give sadaqah? Inshallah, you all give sadaqah for your families, for yourself, for your health. May Corona be away from you, O Mu'mineen and lovers of Ahlul Bayt. But how many of us give sadaqah of our living Imam? Do we understand what is sadaqah? There are many signs of the reappearance. The whole topic has got to be now wrapped up. So I will not go through the sign. You have got great alim amongst you who will talk about the appearance, and he has talked probably many times how Al-Sufyani will arise, what will happen when Ja'al haq wa dhahak al-batil. The ayah that I've been reciting this whole Muharram will be announced from the skies. We need to be connected with that ayah, with haq, and what are the other signs, including Dajjal. I want to talk to you about the connection with the Imam now. I have skipped the signs of his appearance. Sayyid Yunus, this is written in Shifatakan Hazrat Mahdi, volume 2. There's a book. And Sayyid Yunus from Azerbaijan went to Mashhad for ziyarat. And first day of ziyarat, there is a lot of beer, a lot of people. And he lost his whole purse. On those days, you didn't have credit cards, you didn't have bank accounts. You had a purse of coins, money with you. He lost all his purse. He doesn't have a place to stay, doesn't have a place to eat, doesn't have money enough to eat. Look at the state of this Zawar who has come from Azerbaijan. He had planned to be in Mashhad for many days, for a whole month. At night near the Haram, he says, "Oh Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha, I came to do your ziyarah, and now I have nothing. I don't even have a place to sit and sleep." At that time, when he closed his eyes near the Haram, and he dreamt Imam telling him, "Oh Sayyid Yunus, tomorrow at the time of Fajr, go out and at that particular place, the first person you see, ask him for help." He goes out and he sees, as he goes out, the first person he sees is Sayyid Taqi. Now this Sayyid Taqi was from the same town and the same city of Azerbaijan. So he goes to Sayyid Taqi and says, he looks at Sayyid Taqi, says, "I know this guy. Look how we are judgmental. How can I ask him? I know him. I hardly see him in Namaz-e-Jamaat. He's a nice guy. We haven't seen him doing anything bad. But we don't see him in Namaz-e-Jamaat, in our majalis and in our majlises." So, at that stage, he doesn't ask. And that day he spends hungry and goes to sleep again. Again, Imam says the same thing. The first person you see, ask him. Again, he goes next day, tired, with no shelter. He goes next day and he sees the same person. Now he knew that Imam is asking me to talk to him. So he says to Sayyid Taqi, and as soon as he sees Sayyid Taqi, he asks him. And that time Sayyid Taqi gives him a bag of money and says, "This is from Imam." He says, "This is from Imam for you." And he has this money with him. And it is adequate, exactly what he needed to live for 30 days. And Alhamdulillah, he does ziyarah. Still amazed. How did Sayyid Taqi know about Imam asking him to give him? But his still in thoughts, does ziyarah of Imam. And now time comes to go back. And he's ready to go back to Azerbaijan, but he needs money now to go back. So again, he goes to the Dhari and his eyes close and he dreams and saying, "Go same way as you went before and ask the first person you see." And again he says, "Sayyid Taqi." And Sayyid Taqi gives him the money. And that money was exactly enough for his food, for all his requirements to get home till he reaches his doorstep. At that stage, he just asked Sayyid Taqi, "Oh Sayyid Taqi, You have been chosen by Imam to do this particular act. Why? And what is the station? Why? What brought you to this station? And he says, I don't even see you in namaz-e-jamaat in our city when we have namaz. And Sayyid Taqi says, I'll tell you only just a little bit. I can't tell you everything, but I'll only tell you one thing, that yes, you do not see me in namaz-e-jamaat. The reason, and do not say this to anybody else in my lifetime, the reason is this, that every namaz-e-jamaat I recite behind the Wali al-Asr, Hujjat ibn al-Hasan, wherever he is. Sayyid Taqi lives in a city, but his love and connection with Mahdi is such that every namaz-e-jamaat he is reciting behind Mahdi. Are we of that station? Do we understand what our Imam is? Do we recognize the Imam of our time? We have to understand how important it is to feel Imam. Do we know what is hurting him? How our actions are going to him, and how does he feel? Can we become like Sayyid Taqi, who are connected quietly? Even people don't know how close to Imam he is. Imam Rida gives him the authority and gives him the wealth to give to this person. And Imam-e-Zamana is there with him at every salat time. He goes from his city and is transported within seconds to where Imam is, and he recites namaz-e-jamaat with him. We should understand. But we have to feel the words, Ya laytani kuntu ma'akum. Do we feel? O Imam, we wish we were with you in Karbala. O Imam, we would like to be with you, our living Imam. Do we feel the pain of our Imam? Do we feel the pain of the Uyghur Muslims that our Imam feels? Do we feel the pain of Yemen? Do we feel the pain of Bahrain? Do we feel the pain of Kashmir? Do we feel the pain of Palestine? Do we feel the pain of those orphans in Iraq that have been killed by this zalim ISIS? How many of us feel, and how do we feel the importance of connection with our Imam? Our Imam, our Abu Abdullah, the message that he had at the end was very clear. Connecting with Allah, connecting with Haqq. إنما خرجت لطلب الإصلاح أمتي في جد رسول الله. في أمتي جد رسول الله. Why have I risen? To do Amra bil Maruf. Islah is repair something that is broken. What is the state now? If Imam had to fight against those who had lost all their moral values and ethics and humanity, isn't this where we are now? Isn't the community broken? How much is it broken? Don't we see brutal violence? We see haqq, truth, being massacred. 1/3 of the world, 1 in 3% in this world is starving. The children of Yemen do not have adequate food for even once a day. The starvation is such that United Nations says it is the biggest humanity disaster in this century in Yemen. And we eat, and we are not oblivious of what act there is. We await our living Imam, but we don't follow the duties that we have to prepare for his arrival. We have to think about our values and whether we are ready to join the cause of Mahdi. Are we there who will help him to reappear when he reappears to establish that haqq, that justice? Karbala was there to tell us the value and how will we avenge the death in Karbala with our Imam. How much of the core values have we forgotten? How many of the fundamental values have we put aside from our life? Are we in practicing and following the footstep? Following Ahlul Bayt, when we do listen to the Safina of Ahlul Bayt. Innal Hussein misbahul huda wa safinat al-najah. That torch, do we follow that light in this darkness? Are we on that ark of Hussein, Safina of Hussein? When you are on a boat, on an ark, wherever the captain takes you, you go. You do not say, why is he taking you there? Wherever he stops, we stop. And we embark with him till we disembark at the point of salvation in Sirat. But there are many of us says, we are Husseini. And now and then, oh, I don't understand this. The intellectual arguments come in. My mind says this is not right. My thinking says this. Quran never said this. Where are we going with this intellectual argument? We have to understand this concept in our mind that we as Shia have very important roles. Maulai Muttaqiyan says, Shia, signs of Shia are that they meet each other for the love of our wilaya. Al-mutabbiluna fi wilayatuna. They meet for the sake of love with each other. And they love each other for their love. And they do each other's ziyarah in order to keep our affairs alive, like these gatherings that we have. They do not do injustice. And when they are angry, they do not do injustice. And they do not exceed limit when they are happy. How they are barakah for their neighbors, their family, and they are source of peace for all around us. Tonight is the 10th of Muharram. Tonight is the eve of Ashura, a very tragic night, a very sad night, the night of the 72 martyrs of Karbala, the last night, the night that is so important that we understand how Imam asked for this night. He asked for this extra night. He says, "O Abbas," this is Abul Fazl Abbas. Abbas, who was ready to fight, he wanted to fight these enemies who were ready to attack on the 9th night. He says, "O Abbas, go and ask for one night." Hussein loves recitation of Quran and zikr of Hussein, zikr of Allah. How our Imam loved the zikr. Do we do that zikr? The last night for mothers to be with their children. The last night for little Sakina to be near Uncle Abbas and lay on the chest of Hussein. Hussein is putting her hand over the Sakina's head. Sakina, sleep. This chest won't be there tomorrow. Mothers are sitting with the children. Layla is with Ali Akbar. Farwa is with Qasim. Zainab is with Anu Muhammad. What are these mothers telling the children? Oh children, tomorrow is the day of sacrifice. We have to prepare to save Islam. Make sure that Imam is saved. Give your life to save this right path. Let us send salams to these mothers of Karbala. Bibi Zainab hears the voices for crying behind the tents. He calls Mawla. "Oh Baya Hussein, oh my brother, come, I hear the voice of somebody crying behind the tent." Mawla says, Zainab, you did not recognize Fatima to Zahra, our mother is come. She hides behind the tent crying for the sacrifices that will happen tomorrow. Hussein gathered all his companions. He put them together in one place and he said, tomorrow is the day of Shahada. Tomorrow Yazid's army will not spare any of us. Imam Hussein says, oh my friends, my companions, you have suffered enough. You have been hungry and thirsty. There is still time to save your life. I am switching off this candle in the darkness of night. Leave and go away. Take your family and go away. Hussein blows away the candle. How many of the Ashabs left? None. Hussein finds Ashab crying, oh Mawla, how are we going to leave you alone amongst these enemies? Tonight is the night of Ali Asghar. We remember that little Mujahid, the little soldier, the little Shaheed. Hussein with his sword Zulfikar on his waist mounted Zuljana. Hussein rode on the small mount and then he called out, Hal min nasirin yansuruna. Oh my Gharib, Mawla is crying out. Is there anybody to help me? Is there anybody to save the family of the Prophet here and the women of Prophet? Is there anybody to help the grandson of the Prophet? No one answered. But Hussein heard suddenly the sound coming from the camp. Ladies crying loudly. Hussein turned to them and came to the tent. He said, Zainab, why are you crying? Your brother is still alive. Mawla, when you cry, when you said, Hal min nasirin yansuruna, Ali Asghar threw himself from the cradle on the ground. Mawla knew what Ali Asghar was trying to say. Hussein went to Mehrubab. This lady Rabab, how much she suffered in Karbala. She lost Hussein, she lost Asghar, she lost Sakina in Sham. She was left with no one with her. Ali Asghar was in her lap. Hussein picked up the baby from Ali Asghar and whispered something in his ear. Ali Asghar stopped crying. He looked at his father and smiled. Oh, Rubab, I'm taking Ali Asghar to the battlefield with me so that I can get him some water. There is an enemy. When seeing a little child thirsty, he might give him few drops of water and save his life. Rubab, I'm taking Ali Asghar. Hussein carried Ali Asghar to the battlefield. It was very hot. Ali Asghar was thirsty. Hussein covered Ali Asghar in his abba to protect him from the scorching sun. Yazid's men saw Hussein coming with something in his hand. They said, look, Hussein is coming with Quran. He's got no one to help him. We will not help him anymore. We will finish our job. Hussein held Ali Asghar in his hand. With his both hands says, oh soldiers of Yazid, you feel I am on the opposite side of you. But what has this little 6 months old child done to you? His mother's milk is dried. He has not had a drop of water for some days. He is dying of thirst. I beg you to give this poor innocent child some drop of water. A murmur rose amongst the soldiers. Such a little child and no water for him. Imam said, oh Asghar, you are Hujjatullah. You are the Hujjah of Allah. Show them, do your Hujjah. And Ali Asghar took his tongue, his dried tongue, out of his mouth on his lips. Ali Asghar took it over his lips. Some soldiers were so moved by this, they could be heard sobbing. They were crying. Yazid's army, nobody dared to come forward still. Umar Saad looked at Hurmala. and said, Ikta Kalam al-Hussein. Oh, Hurmala silenced the voice of Hussein. Then a terrible thing happened. Hurmala lifted a bow. I'm there with the child's neck. The arrow flew across the whole desert. There was a hissing sound. Asghar smiled. He lifted his head and arched his neck. The arrow passed through the tender neck, the dried neck of Ali Asghar, and lodged in the chest of Hussein. Oh, blood started pouring out. Mawla took his hand, the blood in his hand, and said, Oh, blood of Asghar, I will take you to the sky. But the sky said, don't throw it towards us. We will not put water in this world if this comes to us. Hussein takes the blood, puts it on his beard and says, Oh, Fatima Zahra, my mother, I will come on the day of Ashur with this blood on my face. Our Mazloom Imam pulled a bow over Asghar to shield his body. He took a deep breath and began walking towards the camp. His thought was, how am I going to tell this mother? His mother Rubab, what's happened to Asghar? He walked forward 7 times and came back saying, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi rajiun. When you do amal tomorrow, do not forget Ali Asghar in your mind as you say Inna lillah. He took the body of the infant to Imam Rubab. He said, Rubab, this is the test from Allah which no mother has ever been asked to go through. Come with me, Rabab, come with me. Let us dig a grave behind the tents. Hussein and Rabab dug the grave with their hands and sword and buried Ali Asghar. Azadar, Ali Asghar is buried. Ali Asghar is the first Shaheed who is buried in Karbala. But may I ask you, how long did he remain buried? Sham-e-Ghariba happened. Umar Saad was counting the heads. Where is the head of the little 6-month-old child? The enemy went with the spears. They started digging around the tent. One spear hit the body of Ali Asghar, and it came out, and they severed his head. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رزم بقضاء وتسليما لأمري. Ya Allah, during these 10 nights we have tried to find and tried to walk on the journey of Haq, the truth, in the name of Shuhada Karbala, in the name of Ali Asghar and Rabab. Help us to adhere to truth and Haq, and help us to connect these flag bearers and standard bearers of Ahlul Bayt and our Mawla Abbas and Abu Abdullah. And help us to connect with our Waliul Asr, who is crying tears of blood when he hears about Asghar. He says in Ziyar Nahiya, the little child whose neck who was slaughtered by the arrow. Our Imam cries for Ali Asghar. Ya Allah, help us to connect with our living Imam. Ya Allah, remove the difficulty of all mu'mineen all over the world. Grant those who are ill Shafa'a Kamil. Those who are seeking knowledge in the way of Ahlul Bayt, give them more knowledge. Give us the tawfiq to follow the guidance and the torch of Ahlul Bayt. Hasten, remove the difficulties of all Muslims all over the world. Hasten the reappearance of Waliul Asr, Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. Fatiha.